Hey everyone, it's Alicia. Welcome back to my channel. And
Hey everyone, good morning.
oh my god,
Happy
that's me
Sunday
talking in the
to you.
background.
It is bright
It's
and
so
early
funny.
here.
When I
It
make
is.
these videos, I use something called Photo Booth and it pulls up all my old videos and sometimes they just randomly play. It's a little creepy. Alright, so I'm on here for two reasons. One is to say thank you so much for all of your well wishes for Jelly Bean. I was really moved by them. I bet you she was too. Jelly Bean is not the type of person who's going to talk about it. And I was careful about talking around it because I wasn't sure how many people she had told. But you guys were smart enough to put two and two together, and I bet you she really appreciated it. Jelly Bean, Susan wants to make you a painting of your loved one, your furry baby. So I'm going to email you. I think it's a super generous offer, and it would be wonderful for you to have. How special is that, folks, that Susan offered to do that? I just thought I was so incredibly moved by that. So thank you, Susan. That was amazing. And so many of you sent well wishes. So if nothing else, Jelly Bean, you know you're loved on here. That's for sure. I'm also on here now for a really happy reason. And I wanted to mix the two because I think sometimes when we're in grief, we also need something to distract our brains. Well, for a while I've been talking about doing a swap group. So I've been watching a lot of them. There's some really successful ones like Ida's Tea Party and Tamika's Swap the World, we know is super successful and people love it, right? They love it. So I've been looking at what makes both of these two groups so successful. And why am I focusing on those two shabby groups when they're not like Maggie Holmes-esque and there's lots of Maggie Holmes groups? The truth is a lot of those other groups fail. And, I know because I have friends who are participants in them and they don't get their swaps out. The reason Ida and Tamika are so successful is because they actually get the job done. They don't usually take people that they don't know very well. And the reason for that is they don't want to have anyone with a letdown. It's a lot of work to do something for 5 or 6 people. So they always make sure they take people who are reliable or who they've watched or who they see have been delivering on their promises. Very smartly handled. So I've been learning a lot from them. So I've been watching a lot of their swap videos and taking a look at what makes it so successful. It's not just that they're careful about who participates. It's also that they offer a nice variety so people can, use their creativity. They can personalize the challenge and they always showcase the work beautifully. So we all love them. Right? We love watching them. Whether you're a Maggie Holmes or a Precise Maker, many of us watch Ida or Tamika regardless, just because they're fun to watch and we know people who are entering these challenges and we always want to lend them support. Like both Sabrina and Joanne the Happy Meal Stamper both got into Tamika Swap this round. So of course I was watching to lend support. All right, so what am I thinking of? So I have to shift positions. I have some really bad back pain today. I don't know why, but I just do. So I'm thinking I'd like to start a swap group. And I don't want it to be monthly because I think that's too hard for most of us who are already swapping with pen pals and other things. And I don't want it to be as complicated as Ida swaps. So they do really complicated swaps where they'll do 5 items, like a loaded bag, a shaped tag, an altered tea bag. It's really complicated. And most people, or no, I need a long time to make. So I don't want to commit to something I can't do. And I want to make this easy for people. So I was thinking that what we would do is we would have 6 people. And I want a wide range of makers, folks. I want a Maggie Holmes maker, and I am not a Maggie Holmes maker. I don't consider myself to be a Maggie Holmes maker, even though I love Maggie Holmes. Isn't that crazy? I consider myself to be kind of like a messy, artsy maker. So I'm going to fill that spot in the group, the messy, artsy maker. Thankfully, there aren't too many of us. There's only a few like myself who make a whole bunch of stuff messy, artsy. So I'm not taking away a spot from somebody because there's so few of us. Okay, and then the other spots, I'd like them to be as follows. I would like 2 spots to go to shabby makers. And the reason for that is that, I believe this, folks, they have a lot to teach us. And so I think I want 2 shabby makers on here, 2 different styles of shabby makers. So if someone is like a lace and bling and pearl person like Jelly Bean, that's one style. If you can do all styles like Sabrina, then that fits the other category because there's shabby chic, there's shabby the barn, there's shabby vintage, there's all sorts of shabby. So I want 2 styles of shabby makers, 1 very precise maker. So precise is not so Alicia Love Letter Generation is a precise, clean maker who loves all Heart and Maggie Holmes. But she is a clean and precise creator. I would argue so is Crafty Kimchi. I would argue so is Carmen Goris. These are people, so is Betty Waldeck. Betty Waldeck does the Gorgeous Girl. She's a clean and precise maker. So it's not limited to the paper style, this kind of crafting. It means you're meticulous. You don't like it too busy. You like it to be clean, simple, elegant, refined. That's the style of making. So think I gave you a wide variety to look at, like Alicia Love Letter Generation, Crafty Kimchi. I would argue crafting with Liller is somewhere between the super precise refined and a little bit of my artsy. She's a very precise maker, but she has a bit of artsy flair to her, which is why I love Lily so much. But she is a precise creator. So I want one precise creator, two shabby makers, one vintage maker. So I want someone who does vintage. Now, vintage is also very just like shabby. Susan Tootsie does a lot of vintage inspired stuff, but it looks really different than, let's say, some of the alter junk journal makers that we have online. So someone who loves vintage, who's inspired by vintage, I want to bring that person on the team because, again, we're going to learn so much from them because they also alter everything. And then I want one spot for a Maggie Holmes All Heart funky hip creator. So think like Crafting Con Cruise. Think, I'm trying to think who else is like that, who's like into like Maggie Holmes, but isn't really a precise creator. There's a few out there, actually. There's this one woman I sometimes watch the video of who follows Adrienne Alvarez. She's definitely one of those. Oh, the Paper Treasury is perfect. Okay, the Paper Treasury is a funky Maggie Holmes, like a funky woman, like doing funky projects, but she's not uber precise. I would argue that actually Toni Craftbridge is also like that. Super hip, fun projects, but she sometimes will allow herself more layering than, let's say, a Alicia Love Letter Generation. This is my interpretation, folks. They may not feel that way about themselves, just so you know. This is how Alicia sees everybody. This is Alicia's world. Not necessarily, don't take this as gospel. But in my mind, that's how I see everybody. Like Toni is a fantastic Maggie Holmes maker. Fantastic. But I see her differently than Alicia Love Letter Generation because she's willing to layer more. And Alicia Love Letter Generation is a beautiful maker, but she's more elegant. Like, she puts less layering and she's more cautious about layering, like Crafty Kimchi, but it's very simple and elegant. Whereas Toni's is like more layered and dimensional. So is Shara Crane. I'd say she's like that too. So I want one of those makers. So 2 shabby, 1 vintage, 1 clean and precise, and 1 Maggie Holmes-esque. So that's what I'm looking for. Now, if you are thinking about participating, you got to know a few things. One is you have to commit to making 5 of everything because you're going to be sending it out to 5 different people in the group. You have to commit to hosting once a year. So how this is going to work is we're going to do our swap every 2 months. We're going to give 2 months for every swap, and each person's going to host one and decide what we're making. And that way we learn to make all sorts of things, and that way also everyone in the group has control of the group. It's not Alicia controlling the group, everyone controls the group. So you have to agree to host. And that means you're going to design the project, you're going to tell us what we're making, and you're going to showcase it. And you're going to handle all the stuff coming in that month. Okay, so that's the other rule. And then you have to be super reliable, guys. If people are going to do this and put in this much work, you cannot flake out. You cannot be a flaker. So, in order for me to assess whether or not you're a flaker, I have to see that you've done swaps or you've done things with other people where you've delivered on your promises, because we can't have flakers. Now, what happens if you're new? It's a tough call. I was thinking about this for 2 days. Like, this is why I haven't done this. I've been really giving this a lot of thought. Look, Carmen gave me my first chance, and I know it's really hard for someone to agree to swap with you. That's why I said to Candy, yes, let's do it. It's really hard. But you have to kind of prove yourself the first time. And how do you get someone to agree to that, if you don't have an opportunity? And I get it. If you're a new maker who has been super consistent on my channel, I'm going to make an exception. So if you're someone like a Rosita or a Margaret Clevenger, you've been on here all the time, and I see that you've submitted a whole bunch of things. My Scrapbook Loft, you're another example. Now, my Scrapbook Loft is not a new maker, folks. She's been doing this longer than I have. She's been on for 12 years. She's been a maker. She's an expert maker. She just doesn't say it. She's an expert level maker, but she's new to YouTube. So, someone like that, no problem. I know she's going to deliver. I know Rosita's going to deliver. I know Margaret's going to deliver. Those of you that have been on here consistently and you're supporting other challenges, I know you're going to deliver, so that's fine. But if you're someone I don't know, I have to be careful because 5 other people are relying on you. And we don't want any flaking out, because what's happening with a lot of groups on Facebook and happening with a lot of other groups is that people are flaking out, and it's very disappointing, and that's what ruins the group. So Alicia's going to be real careful about this. It's important. So if you hear all of that and you feel you can handle a swap every 2 months where you have to make something for 5 people, now we are going to make it simple. We're only going to pick one thing. We're not going to do like Miss Ida where they do 4 things, or Tamika where they do 3 things. It won't be like a shape tag, an altered note card, and an altered notebook. No, it'll be a shape tag. Or the next month it might be an altered notebook. Or the third month it might be an embellishment box. We're only going to do one thing, and we're going to give 2 months for it to happen. So we're going to do 6 swaps a year. If after hearing all of this and all of the requirements and all of what you have to do, you still want to play, then leave me your name below in the comment section. One, you have to be a subscriber, and the reason for that is I got to make sure that I know who you are. 2, you have to tell me what kind of maker you are. Because remember, I'm looking for 2 shabby, 1 precise, 1 vintage, 1 Maggie Holmes-esque. So let me know what type you are. There's only 1 slot per category, except for shabby where there's 2. So leave me down below what kind of maker you are, and let me know, I guess, why you want to do this. And we'll form a group. We're going to have to name it. I don't know what we're going to call it. Ida's got the tea party. Tamika's got that cool hip, hey, welcome to the swap world with that cool music. We're going to have to figure out what our aesthetic is. But we will, and we'll name ourselves. And hopefully this will be a whole lot of fun, and all of you will get to see it in the year ahead. So it'll be 6 swaps a year. Every 2 months you have a swap. And you're going to host 1 swap a year. All right? Give it some thought. Let me know what you think, and I'll be back on later today. I hope everyone has a wonderful Monday. Thanks everyone for your kind wishes about the doctor's appointment. I appreciate it because I hate them. So it's nice knowing that all of you understand why. All right. Take care and bye for now.